Knicks still won in overtime in Boston, game one in the second round. I'm your host, Hawk. Let's talk hoops. Old school, I got my notes here. Let's get into it. I started this game at 6-minute mark. I was actually trying to record another video. I hurried up and finished that before this game started. By the time I turned it on, we're 6 minutes in. Boston was up 14-11. First play I see was Mitchell Robinson getting put in a pick and roll and Tatum attacking him and knocking down a three. And I go, oh, okay, Tatum's feeling good early. I'm thinking we might have a Tatum game. Deuce McBride looked good off the bench early. He got a quick 6 points. Tatum started that game 4 for 5 from the field. Once again, I'm thinking Tatum game incoming. We'll talk about what actually happened in a little bit. We'll continue on. Towns looked good to start this game. And I wanted to stress this early because come that third quarter and the second quarter, I got some negative things to say about Karl-Anthony Towns. But to start this game, he looked really good. He looked aggressive. He was getting to the basket on his drives. Karl-Anthony Towns, I've said this plenty of times before, one of the best driving big man shoot, if not the best driving big man in the league, maybe after Giannis. Early in this game, we saw that the Knicks were going to leave some points at the free throw line. And the first quarter, Boston was 8 for 11 from the free throw line. New York was 0 for 4. Well, not necessarily just the whole first quarter. At the point where I wrote these notes down, like halfway through the first quarter, Boston was 8 for 11. New York was 0 for 4 from the free throw line. Eventually, Boston starts fouling Mitchell Robinson once he checks in, and he was 1 for 4 in just the first quarter alone. Real quick on the Mitchell Robinson fouling, because it happens throughout the entire game. A lot of people on Twitter were like, oh, what is this? This is trash hoops. Like, why are you fouling off ball, yada, 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 yada. Hey, it's the playoffs, and we're trying to win basketball games. People was hack-a-shacking forever. And I mean, I get it because it's a little different because it was Shaq and he was the offensive force. So if you foul him, he can't dunk you in the paint. And Mitchell Robinson ain't Shaq. But Mitchell Robinson can't knock down a free throw. And if fouling Mitchell Robinson is going to disrupt the Knicks offense and potentially only have them getting 1 point every other possession, because that's how bad he was shooting free throws tonight, then yeah, I'm going to foul Mitchell Robinson. I'm not mad at the Celtics for fouling Mitchell Robinson off ball. Either make your free throws or, even better, Karl-Anthony Towns don't get in foul trouble so the Knicks aren't put in that situation. Tatum ends the first quarter with 13 points, 4 for 8 from the field. I'm thinking, oh snap, Tatum game incoming. We go into the second quarter. Towns is still looking good. It was a one possession where Jaylen Brown was guarding Towns. Towns scored over him in the paint, and it was even off of a Drew double team. Off of Josh Hart. A lot of times when Towns was on the court, especially before he got in foul trouble, it was either Drew Holiday or Jaylen Brown guarding him. We've seen this throughout the regular season, them do this, having one of those two guards on him and doubling down. When Towns takes his time and composed, he can take advantage of that. We'll get to it later, but I think there were times where he was pressing a little bit too much. But early in that second, he had 2 nice back-to-back plays where he scored over Jaylen Brown and just took advantage of the size mismatch. On the other end, though, at 9:46 in the second, Karl-Anthony Towns gets his third foul. Jaylen Brown gets the switch and just draws the pump fakes. Towns jumps into him and he draws the foul. Towns at that point had 10 points. Spoiler alert, he ends the game with 14. 10 of those were in the first quarter. Well, 10 of those were in most of the first quarter and the beginning of the second quarter. But it was definitely a physical game because Jaylen Brown also had 2 fouls at 9 minutes and 20 seconds. But then, good thing for the Knicks, I think Jalen Brunson started this game off a little slow. Karl-Anthony Towns, like I said, was the aggressive one early. Once he went down, they went right with Jalen Brunson getting active and trying to look to score. Because he drew the second foul on Jaylen Brown, and then Holiday actually fouled him on a 3 as well. Shout out Peyton Pritchard. He was great for the Celtics off the bench with 13 points. And it was also at this point with Karl-Anthony Towns on the bench that the game got a lot faster. And I mean significantly faster. Both teams running up and down, scoring in transition or semi-transition, even off of makes. Like, they were running up and down the floor. And to me, it was almost playing a little bit more in the Boston's hands, but at least at this point in time, New York was still hanging out and in the game. In this second quarter, the Celtics continued to intentionally foul Mitchell Robinson. If anything, started fouling him more and more. And at this point is when Tibbs decided to put pressure to Chua in for his first playoff moments of this postseason. And at this point, we get to halftime. Like I said, with Karl-Anthony Towns on the bench, especially in that second quarter, the game got out of hand for the Knicks. The Boston Celtics upped the tempo. They got up and down the floor, and they were up 61-45. Jalen Brunson was 3 for 9 from the field with 9 points. Jaylen Brown had 14, Tatum had 13, and Peyton Pritchard had 13 in just that first half alone. And when I'm watching this game, I'm concerned for the Knicks because I'm like, dang, they're killing you like this. And Kristaps Porzingis, who didn't have a good first half, was 0 for 4. I'm like, if he turns it up in the second half, this could be a blowout. Turns out that Kristaps Porzingis actually didn't even play in the second half of this game. He went out with an illness. He was dealing with some sort of upper respiratory infection or virus earlier in the season. Just honestly, I want to believe like a couple weeks ago. So it could be something like that coming back. They didn't really get into it on the broadcast. Some more of my thoughts at halftime. Boston is taking advantage of the switches, whether it was Karl-Anthony Towns, whether it was Precious Achiuwa, whether it was Mitchell Robinson. When Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum saw those switches in the first half, they were attacking him. And the Knicks, surprisingly, were switching everything. One of the things I also wrote down at halftime that was working for the Knicks, when Towns was on the floor in that first quarter, being aggressive and playing within the offense, Kristaps Porzingis was guarding Josh Hart, which let Josh Hart set a couple of screens for Jalen Brunson. But because KP was guarding the screener, KP was playing a lot of drop coverage, leaving that ball handler either open for a pull-up three or with space to attack the rim. Overall, the Knicks didn't look great in that first half. Bridges had 2 points. He was 1 for 6. OG had 6 points. He was 2 for 8 from the field. He did have 2 what felt like timely threes in that first half. He was 2 for 5 from the three-point line, OG was. And then the third quarter started. Karl-Anthony Towns comes back in the game, and to me at least, it felt like he was trying to make up for the time he missed in that second quarter. In his mind, he was like, I was dominant in that first, I'm trying to get back to that right away, and I'm trying to, all at once, make up for the time I missed in that second quarter. They forced Cat into a shot clock violation on either his first or second possession of that third. Then a turnover a couple plays later. It just looked really frustrated out there. He ends up getting his 4th foul with 7 minutes left in the third quarter. And he looked like he was trying to find a rhythm or trying to, like I said, make up for the time he missed. But he was just forcing it over and over and over again. There were about 4 or 5 possessions and like a really short time span that either resulted in a bad stop from Towns or a turnover from Towns. And in that time span, the Boston Celtics scored every single time. And then we looked up and Boston was up 20. So like I said, Karl-Anthony Towns around that 7-minute mark goes down with his 4th foul, comes back out of the game, and then the Knicks slowly start to chip away. OG starts knocking down a couple of threes. They get it within 10. Tatum makes 2 back-to-back threes to put the lead back to 16. And then the Knicks stopped letting the Boston Celtics get offensive rebounds. There was this long stretch from maybe like 4 minutes left at the end of the third quarter to maybe like the first 4 minutes of the fourth quarter where the Celtics could not get an offensive rebound. One of the things that make the Celtics so deadly, yes, they shoot a lot of threes. They shoot a ton. We'll talk about it in a second. I want to say they missed 45 threes this game. The Knicks didn't even shoot 45 threes this game. But one of the things that allows them to shoot so many threes and to be so aggressive with shooting so many threes normally is that their corner guards, either Derek White, Drew Holiday, Peyton Pritchard, whoever that guard is in the corner crashes that offensive glass heavily, creating second, third options at the rim. The Knicks weren't giving that up. So when the Boston Celtics were missing these threes and they were turning in the long rebounds, the Knicks were securing those boards and getting out on the break and running and scoring and transition. In that third quarter, Boston only had 1 offensive rebound. It felt like the Knicks had a concerted effort on stopping them from getting offensive rebounds and getting out on the break, and it got them back in the game. The Knicks go on a 20-9 run to end that third quarter, and they're down 9 going into the fourth. So in the fourth quarter, I'm like, okay, Towns is going to come back again. What can he do? Is it going to be like what happened in the third quarter, where he had a couple of strung together, handful of bad possessions, and kind of threw the game away for his team? Or is he going to try to fit into the offense? Early in that fourth quarter, Towns gets a putback. They put him within 4. OG knocks down another 3. At this point, OG feels like he's on fire. And every time he touches the ball, he's going to knock down an open shot. I talked about that stretch where Boston was missing a line and the end of the third quarter stretch at the beginning of the fourth quarter where Boston was missing and the Knicks weren't letting him get offensive rebounds. They missed 14 of their 18 shots in that stretch. I don't have the exact timestamps, but the end of the third, beginning of the fourth, that little 5-7 minute time span, they missed 14 of 18 shots and got minimal 1-2 offensive rebounds at that, if that. In the end, it turns into a 31-11 run before I feel like it started to go a back and forth game where Boston was scoring again more regularly. But at that point, New York was back into the game. And then halfway through that fourth quarter, Karl-Anthony Towns strikes again. And this is going to sound like hate, but I'm just pointing it out because I know I love Karl-Anthony Towns. I'm a big Karl-Anthony Towns fan. His mistakes stand out to me because I'm watching him very intently because I know and want him to be great. I know how great he can be and I want him to be great. He had, to me, the best season of his career with the Knicks, but tonight he just felt like he was forcing it. In the middle of that fourth quarter, he airballs a three that leads to Jaylen Brown going down and getting fouled on the break and knocking down both free throws. And then about 2 possessions later, he has a really bad drive attempt on Al Horford that results in a miss that leads to a Derek White wide open three in the corner once again on the fast break. And to me, at this point, I wrote down, it just doesn't feel like he's letting the game find him or come to him. I get that he's essentially their second best player. He's a guy that they want to get going. But at this point in the game, I feel like you got to realize, not that it's not my night, but how else can I impact the game in other ways? And he was rebounding. He was kind of, well, I'm not even going to say he's playing great defense. He was in foul trouble for most of the game. But he was rebounding. I just wish he would have done a better job of finding other ways to really have a positive impact on this game. Like the offensive rebounding he did in some of the putbacks he had. The putbacks and offensive rebounds he had in the second half. Now, fourth quarter, he had one in the fourth quarter and he had one in overtime. They both were big buckets. I wish he would have did just more of stuff like that. Then that last 5-minute stretch, it was Jalen Brunson. It was the clutch player of the year. It was a corner three. He drew a foul on Jaylen Brown. Then it was a pull-up kind of step-back three off a screen. And then it was a step back three over Al Horford. All around happened like leading up to the 3-minute mark down the stretch of the game. And then it was at this point when Brunson really started going crazy, closing the game. The game's close. I want to say even at this point, the Knicks had the lead. Boston starts offensive rebounding again to get themselves back in the game. But it really was Jalen Brunson creating everything for the New York Knicks. And I'm watching the game with my wife, and she's like, pass the ball. Like, somebody else has to do something. I'm like, I don't disagree with you from a smart basketball perspective. Yes, somebody else has to do something for the Knicks. But this, for better or worse, is who the Knicks are. Jalen Brunson creates everything for this team. This is what they've done all year long. And game one in the close game against the Celtics is not when they're going to switch it up. Luckily, Jalen Brunson did find OG in the corner for that big corner three down the stretch of that game. And Brunson ends up with a great look over Al Horford to win, and he just missed it. A great backdoor cut. And what should be a routine floater over Al Horford, but he misses it in overtime. And then in overtime, Mikal Bridges' defense was absolutely fantastic in overtime. Absolutely fantastic. He ended up with a block and a steal, but then he also got the game-winning steal. I did write down a frustration point with Mikal Bridges. I felt like another guy who was just off offensively this game. He shot like 3 or 4 really awkward midi pull-ups that were like swung his body to the side, like feet kick. Midi pull-ups that I don't feel like he normally takes. He shot one in overtime that almost had me pulling my hair out, but then he got the stop that won the game. So I was like, all right, I can't be too mad at you. I think that at the end of the day, this game came down to a couple of things for me. Boston went on this huge run where the Knicks offense was just very stagnant. And then they fell in love with the three ball down the stretch and shot 3 after 3 after 3 after 3. There were stretches in this game where Jason Tatum had either Mitchell Robinson switched on to him, still take a pull-up 3. Had Jalen Brunson switched on to him, still take a pull-up 3. And yes, he can make them. I talked about there was a moment where he knocked down 2 back-to-back ones to start early in the game. I thought it was going to be a big Jason Tatum game. I just wish he would have decided to let me get to the basket, let me attack, let me do something else. And there were moments when he did. He had a beautiful pass, I want to say either in the third, early in the fourth, where he faked like he was looking for his own shot, got the defense to commit, and zipped the ball over to the wing to, I can't remember who the shooter was, but a wide open shooter who knocked it down. There were moments when he did other things. I just was down the stretch. He put his head down and tried to go to the rim a little bit more to get to that free throw line. Because, I mean, in this game, Boston was 15 for 60 from 3. 15 I can't even say it right. Boston was 15 for 60 from 3. And then New York was 17 to 37. Boston shot 25% from the three-point line. Knicks shot 45% from the three-point line. And the other big piece, I think, looking forward to game 2, that the Knicks really have to clean up, because I'm gonna be honest with you. Yes, did the Celtics miss a lot of threes? Absolutely. Did Jason Tatum miss a lot of threes down the stretch? Absolutely. I've watched enough Boston Celtics basketball that I promise you they're not shooting 25% from 3 again this series. I promise you they're not. They're gonna have a game where they shoot 50% from 3. That's how good the Boston Celtics shoot. So to mitigate stuff like that, you gotta knock down easy free throws. And Karl-Anthony Towns cannot get in foul trouble, which forces Mr. Robinson to play 20 minutes and be 3 for 10 from the free throw line. That disrupted so much of their offense. They have to find a solution to that. And to me, the solution is Karl-Anthony Towns, you need to be on the floor. He only played 31 minutes because he spent so much time in foul trouble. And shoot, Towns didn't shoot a free throw. Now that I'm looking at it, Towns has to be aggressive and get to the free throw line. Knicks shot 17 for 31 at the free throw line, left way too many just free points out there. This game did not have to be in the overtime if you knock down your free point. From Boston's perspective, as crazy as it sounds, I mean, yeah, you want that game back. There's certain decisions you could have made differently. Maybe don't shoot 15 threes, Jason Tatum, if you're only going to make 4. And like I said, get to the basket. Jaylen Brown went 1 for 10 from 3. Derek White went 5 for 16 from 3. Drew Holiday even was 2 for 7. Al Horford was 1 for 5. Peyton Pritchard was 2 for 5. 2 for 5 is good. But my point is, they're not going to shoot that bad again. They're just not. That's not who the Celtics are. So good on the Knicks to take advantage of a night like this when they do shoot that bad. If the Celtics shoot this bad, you have to win this game, and the Knicks did that. So at the end of the day, it might seem like I'm talking negative about the Knicks, but at the end of the day, they got the job done. They did what they needed to do. But if they're going to have a chance in this series, and if I'm be honest, I'm picking the Celtics to win. But if the Knicks are going to have a chance, they got to knock down their free throws. They got to limit the Boston Celtics to offensive rebounds, because that's what they want to do. They got back in this game by limiting their offensive rebound. And Karl-Anthony Towns has to stay healthy. Has to stay out of foul trouble and stay on the floor. I'll catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching. I'm out. Peace.